You ever wonder what happens when the wrong person gets a taste of power, then uses it to torment everyone around them? This is the story of a petty HOA president who thought she could control the entire neighborhood, until she called the cops one too many times on the wrong guy. She didn't know he was the new police chief. What happened next changed the entire community. The knock came just as I was handing someone a plate of ribs. Laughter faded. I looked up and saw 6 uniformed officers walking into my backyard. 6. I wasn't expecting trouble, but I also wasn't surprised. Officer Rodriguez hesitated. "Chief, you're the noise complaint." I nodded, arms crossed. "Apparently." The officers exchanged looks, unsure how to proceed. The chatter behind me slowed to silence. I could feel eyes on me, not just my guests, but hers. Karen stood at her second-story window, her signature clipboard nowhere in sight, but her phone still in hand. Her expression was unreadable, but I knew what it had been a few minutes earlier. Smug, satisfied. The kind of face that expected to win without resistance. What she didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that the man hosting the dangerous and disruptive party was the newly appointed police chief of Oak Ridge. I had moved here for peace. After 15 years in the city, working major crimes, dealing with everything from gang violence to political pressure, I thought Oak Ridge would be a reprieve, a place to breathe, retire eventually, grill on weekends, sleep without sirens. The neighborhood was nice enough. Clean lawns, HOA newsletters, sidewalks that were pressure-washed monthly. But I hadn't counted on Karen. Karen, who introduced herself on day one with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I'm the HOA president," she had said, extending a perfectly manicured hand. "We like to keep things quiet around here." I told her I'd be no trouble. That didn't matter. The warnings started immediately. First about my garbage bins. Then the hose in my front yard. The height of my grass. She'd even circled the placement of my security camera on the HOA bulletin board. It was all subtle intimidation. But I dealt with worse. I complied. I adjusted. I bit my tongue. Until the barbecue. It was 7 p.m. A few neighbors from the department were over. No music, just conversation, and a Bluetooth speaker playing soft jazz. Karen marched into the yard with the authority of a small-town sheriff, demanding to see my event permit. I told her there was no such requirement under the HOA rules. She didn't like that. She left without another word. 20 minutes later, the first complaint was filed, and then another. By the third call, alleging aggressive behavior, loud music, and suspected alcohol violations, Karen escalated to 911. This time she claimed domestic violence. That was no longer petty. That was dangerous. False reporting ties up real emergency resources. That night, as 6 of my own officers stood awkwardly on my lawn, I knew this wasn't about me anymore. It was about the system, about abuse of it, so I stopped playing nice. I didn't retaliate publicly. I started with records. In the quiet of my office that weekend, I pulled dispatch logs. Karen had filed 28 police reports in 12 months. 28. Most were baseless. A few were absurd. She had once claimed that a neighbor's garage yoga class was a cover for cult activity. Another said a child's lemonade stand was aggressive soliciting. I reached out to the responding officers. Every single one confirmed the same thing. Nothing matched what she reported. But every call demanded time. Every unit she tied up meant someone else waited longer. I wasn't the only target. 3 other families had submitted statements of harassment. One, a young couple, said Karen followed their guests with a camera. Another said she threatened fines for leaving Halloween decorations up 1 extra day. I compiled everything: statements, footage, call transcripts, dispatch times. I brought it to the city prosecutor and the HOA legal team. I asked for one meeting, a formal review. I told them I wanted it public. They agreed. Wednesday came. The HOA community hall was full. Residents, many of whom had quietly endured Karen's reign for years, filled every seat. Karen walked in with her clipboard and a bright blue sweater. She looked confident. She always did. She didn't glance at me. I stood up first. My name is James Carter. I'm your neighbor. And as of last month, I am also the chief of police. There were murmurs. Tonight, I want to talk about misuse of emergency services and abuse of authority. I began with the call logs. One by one, I showed them dates, times, accusations. I played 911 audio. Karen's voice claiming a man was yelling and threatening violence while the officer's body cam showed me calmly serving brisket. Her face started to pale. Then I projected her previous reports, claims about suspicious packages that turned out to be Amazon deliveries, and a so-called drug transaction that was a teenager selling Girl Scout cookies. Then I opened the floor. One neighbor stood and asked if the asthma attack her son suffered last year delayed because of misallocated responders was the night Karen had reported a drunken tailgate party at their house. Another resident, an older woman, shared how she had stopped hosting book club nights because Karen called them politically subversive gatherings. It wasn't just me. It was everyone. Karen didn't speak. Her face was blank now, the clipboard still clutched in white-knuckled hands. The HOA secretary called for a vote, unanimous. Karen was removed as president. A formal cease and desist order was issued. She was fined for false reports and barred from holding office in the community for 5 years. Thus, HOA voted to audit all fund usage under her leadership. By the end of the week, her house was up for sale. In the weeks that followed, the neighborhood changed. The new HOA board introduced public voting, transparent budgeting, and relaxed minor regulations. People hosted cookouts again. Kids played music. Flags went back up on porches. For the first time, the neighborhood breathed. Karen's absence did not create chaos. It created calm. And for me, it wasn't just a personal win. It was a reminder of why I joined the force in the first place. Not to punish, but to protect. Not to dominate, but to serve. We talk about justice like it's always loud, immediate, forceful. But sometimes, justice is quiet. It walks into a meeting room, shows the truth, and lets silence do the rest.